Welcome back to the channel, hockey fans. Today let's look back in time at 10 of the greatest hockey games ever played, in no particular order. The 1950 Stanley Cup Finals, Game 7, April 23, 1950. The Detroit Red Wings 4, New York Rangers 3 in double overtime. Perhaps the most exciting finals ever. The Rangers won Games 4 and 5 on overtime goals from Don Rawley. The Red Wings won Game 6 with a third period rally to force Game 7 in Detroit. It went into the second overtime tied 3-3 before Detroit's Pete Babando, one of the few American players in the NHL at the time, won the cup. Afterward, Detroit's Ted Lindsay inaugurates the Parade of Champions by picking the Stanley Cup off the table and skating around the arena. The longest playoff game in history was on March 24, 1936. Detroit won, Montreal Maroons nothing, in 6 overtimes. The longest playoff game in history lasted a full game longer than Brett Hull's triple overtime thriller in 1999. Mud Bruneteau scored in the 6th overtime after 116 minutes and 30 seconds of extra time. The game ended at 2:25 a.m. and the Red Wings captured the Stanley Cup. In the 1982 Smythe Division semifinals, Game 3, April 10, 1982, Los Angeles Kings 6, Edmonton Oilers 5 in overtime. Led by the 92-goal effort of Wayne Gretzky, the Oilers scored 111 points during the season, nearly double the Kings' 63. With the Oilers up 5-0 heading into the third period, the Kings mounted an improbable comeback, scoring the first of 5 consecutive goals at the 2:46 mark. After scoring at 15:59 of the third to come within a goal, they tied the game up with 5 seconds remaining. At 2:35 of the first overtime, Kings rookie Darrell Evans, who had been banished earlier for fighting, returned to the ice and scored the winner. The Kings later completed the series upset. Kings owner Jerry Buss also left the game early and was greeted with jeers from the Forum crowd. Buss would learn of his team's comeback on the radio as he left the Forum. The 1987 Patrick Division semifinals, Game 7, April 18, 1987. Islanders 3, Capitals 2, 4 overtimes. The longest game since 1943 saw the Islanders complete a comeback from a 3-1 series deficit. Washington dominated in regulation, but Islanders goalie Kelly Hrudey was brilliant in keeping his team close, and Brian Trottier scored late to send the game to overtime. As the game continued, Hrudey and Caps goalie Bob Mason stifled all shots. Finally, after 68 minutes of extra time, New York's Pat LaFontaine fired a slap shot through a maze of players, off the goalpost and into the net. The game became known as the Easter Epic. The 1994 Stanley Cup Finals, Game 7, June 14, 1994. New York Rangers 3, Vancouver Canucks 2. Only one of 3 7-game finals since 1971. The Rangers were seeking their first Stanley Cup championship since 1940. The Rangers led the series 3-1, but the Canucks won twice to force Game 7 at Madison Square Garden. The Rangers grabbed a 2-0 lead in the first period, but Vancouver cut it to 2-1 in the second. Mark Messier scored late in the second period for a 3-1 lead, while the Canucks once again cut it to a 1-goal deficit. But in a tight third period, before a screaming home crowd, the Rangers held on. The 1987 Canada Cup Finals, Game 3, September 15, 1987. 3 closely fought 6-5 games decided the 87 Canada Cup. Game 1 was decided in overtime, and Game 2 in double overtime. The Soviets took a 3-0 lead 8 minutes into Game 3. It was 4-2 after one period, but Canada scored 3 times in the second period to take a 5-4 lead. However, the Soviets would tie it up. Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux, playing on the same team for the only time in something other than an all-star game, combined for the winning goal with 1:26 left, as Gretzky delivered a perfect pass on a 2-on-1 to Lemieux. Earlier, in a similar situation, Lemieux passed the puck back to Gretzky, who told him to shoot the puck next time. Lemieux did, and Canada won. The 1979 Conference Finals, Game 7, May 10, 1979. Montreal Canadiens 5, Boston Bruins 4, overtime. The 2 best teams in the Prince of Wales Conference met in Montreal, with the winner advancing to the Stanley Cup Finals against the New York Rangers. Boston led 3-1 entering the third period, but the Habs scored twice to even the score. The Bruins' Rick Middleton silenced the crowd by scoring with 4 minutes left. But with time running out, Don Cherry's Bruins were caught with too many men in the ice. Guy Lafleur took advantage of the power play to send the game into overtime, which Montreal won at 9:33 on Yvon Lambert's goal. The Canadiens went on to defeat the New York Rangers in 5 games of the Stanley Cup Final to win their 4th straight Stanley Cup. The 1972 Summit Series, Game 8, September 28, 1972. Team Canada 6, Soviet Union 5. Hockey's first challenge series was tied 3-3-1, heading into the final game in Moscow. The game was played at an intense emotional pitch. When J.P. Parise was given a misconduct penalty and tossed from the game, Canada coach Harry Sinden tossed a stool and metal chair onto the ice. The 2,000 Canadian supporters began chanting, "Let's go home! Let's go home!" Ken Dryden was in the nets for Canada, but the Soviets led 5-3 entering the third period. Goals from Phil Esposito and Yvan Cormier tied it up. Finally, Paul Henderson converted a pass from Esposito with 34 seconds remaining for the game-winning goal. Many consider it the most significant moment in Canadian sports history. The New Year's Eve game on December 31st, 1975, between the Montreal Canadiens and the Soviet Red Army team is often regarded as one of the greatest hockey games ever played. Although the game ended in a 3-3 tie, it was a showcase of skill, strategy, and the contrasting styles of North American and Soviet hockey. The Canadiens dominated the game in shots, outshooting the Red Army 38-13. However, the Soviet goaltender Vladislav Tretiak performed stellarly, making numerous key saves to keep his team in the game. The game was not just an exhibition, but a clash of hockey philosophies and a symbol of the Cold War tensions of the time. The 1980 Olympic semifinal, Miracle on Ice, February 22, 1980, United States 4, Soviet Union 3. The U.S. hockey team consisted of a bunch of college players. Nobody expected them to play with the powerful Soviets, who regularly beat NHL teams and had many of the best players in the world. In an exhibition game 2 weeks before the Olympics, the Soviets won 10-3 over the USA. Team USA head coach Herb Brooks said his players sat in the dressing room with their mouths hanging open. In the semifinal game in Lake Placid, New York, the Soviets led 3-2 entering the final period, but Mark Johnson tied the game with 11.5 minutes left, and 2 minutes later, team captain Mike Eruzione scored for a 4-3 lead. With the crowd wildly cheering them on, the U.S. holds on for the stunning upset. Goalie Jim Craig finishes with 36 saves, and in the locker room, the U.S. players sing "God Bless America." They beat Finland 4-2 to capture the gold medal 2 days later, winning only their second Olympic gold since 1960 at Squaw Valley. On a side note, Team USA head coach Herb Brooks was vindicated by the 1980 victory, as he was the last player to be cut from the Squaw Valley squad in 1960. Hey hockey fans, please hit the subscribe button if you like this content. You can also follow my blog at https://tedtalkshockey.com, and remember to keep your stick in the ice. Thanks for watching.